Yoho, Kantipur Television.
Namaste, you just tuned into Life is Beautiful right here only on Kantipur Television and welcome to the show. भनिन्छ कि मानिसले जन्मेदेखि मृत्युसम्मको समयमा प्राप्त गर्ने अवसर र चुनौतीको सम्मिश्रण नै जीवन हो। तर कतिपय व्यक्तिहरूले आफ्नो जीवनकालमा प्राप्त गरेको ख्याति र जीवन पश्चात छोडेर गएको लेगेसीले हामीलाई सदैव सत्कर्मतर्फ डोर्याउँदछ। सर एडमन्ड हिलेरी त्यस्तो एक नाम हो जसले चुनौतीको उत्कृष्ट उदाहरण नै जीवन हो भन्ने साबित गर्दै संसारको सर्वोच्च शिखर सगरमाथामा आफ्नो सहयोगी तेन्जिङ नोर्गे शेर्पासँग पहिलो पटक सफल आरोहण गरेको पनि धेरै भइसक्यो। तर उहाँले स्थापना गर्नुभएको सामाजिक संस्था भने झन सक्रिय हुँदैछ र फैलँदैछ, झाँगिँदैछ। अनि उहाँको लेगेसीलाई निरन्तरता दिने क्रममा सर हिलेरीकी नातिनी एमेलिया रस हिलेरी नेपालमा पटक पटक भ्रमण गरिराख्नुहुन्छ। सगरमाथा नेपालको मात्र नभइकन सम्पूर्ण विश्वको नै प्रमुख सम्पदा हो भन्ने कुरालाई मनन गर्दै नेपाल टुरिज्म बोर्ड लगायत सम्पूर्ण टुरिज्म या भनौँ पर्यटनसँग सरोकार राख्ने सङ्घ संस्थाको कोअर्डिनेसनमा ग्लोबल एकाडेमी अफ टुरिज्म एन्ड हस्पिटालिटी एजुकेसन गेट कलेजले होस्ट गरेको प्रथम अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय सगरमाथा दिवस हाल आएर विश्वव्यापी रूपमै मनाउने गरिन्छ। र यसै क्रममा यस वर्ष नेपाल भ्रमण गर्नुभएकी एमेलिया रस हिलेरी आजको हामीहरूको ब्युटिफुल गेस्ट हुनुहुन्छ फर द सेगमेन्ट ब्युटिफुल पिपल। To my immediate right, I have today Amelia Rose Hilery. So welcome to Life is Beautiful.
Thank you for having me.
Sir Edmund Hillary first summited the Mount Everest with Tenzing Norgay, and it's almost 6 decades passed by, and the list is just growing larger, getting larger, right? So how did you picture Nepal when you first came to know or realized what your grandfather did?
Well, I think, when you get told something as a child, as far as I was concerned, up until probably about 5-6 years ago, it was Grandpa Ed. He had climbed a mountain and that was that. It was only when I started really coming here and spending time, and it wasn't the climbing of Everest, it was the schools, the hospitals, the relationship he had with the Nepali community. It was the fact that when I came here, I was treated like family. That's when in my head I started to go, hold on, there's something special, there's something different about this relationship. And ever since I've been just, I guess, so proud of my grandfather. But as a child, you don't really mind. You're more concerned with, what is my Christmas present or birthday present. So.
Okay, how old were you when you first came to Nepal?
I was 11 or 12.
Wow,
so I was quite young.
15 years back.
A long time, just under 15 years back, yes.
Okay.
So
what do you remember of that moment or that time?
Well, most of the time we spent here would be up in Khumbu and in the mountains, in the trekking areas. And honestly, I was up there about a month ago celebrating the 50th anniversary of the first school my grandfather built in Kumjung. And the development going up from Lukla up through Namche, you have internet cafes, you have 24-hour power, you have running water. And Namche Bazaar is a little shopping district. It's actually quite unbelievable, the change, from this rural town communities where you were sleeping in tents to now you can have your own room and private bathroom. It's amazing, the development there. But it's been interesting to see, other parts of Nepal. So I've been down to Janakpur recently, spent time in Lumbini. I've gone out to further places in West Nepal, and Nepal is quite a collective country. It's not a uniform country. The diversity, even just one valley to the next, is really, it's breathtaking, and it's something the country should be very proud of.
In 1963, one man went up to the Mount Everest with all that adversity and challenges, but he left his legacy by opening Himalayan Trust that opened airport, 27 schools, health clinics, hospitals, and now men climb Mount Everest in hundreds in number. It is believed that Everest region is polluted. How concerned are you and what are you doing?
Well, there is some concern of pollution, but look, the mountain is much cleaner than it was 5-10 years ago. There have been a lot of campaigns on the mountain to pull rubbish off. The main issue is up high on the mountain. The lower flanks of the mountain are much cleaner. The Himalayas are actually a very new mountain range, and I guess they're more exposed than most other regions to the effects of global warming because of their positioning and other factors. So there are many issues, and some of them my grandfather started really focusing on later in life. And my father, who's very passionate about the environment, has continued with. There are issues with the glacial lakes up in the Himalayas that, any day actually some of these could burst, and we're talking about wiping out a whole valley if they do. So it's quite concerning, and it's something that needs to be addressed. And I think, unfortunately for Nepal, it's one of the countries that are going to feel the effects of global warming much faster than other countries.
What do you think? Should government of Nepal introduce tougher penalties and regulations, or just cut down the number of permissions?
I guess my main concern with Everest isn't so much the effect people are having. It's actually, should they be there in the first place? I've seen people in 2003 learning how to put crampons on at Everest Base Camp. This is very dangerous. 100 people are summiting at the moment, on one day. So imagine you're on this very knife-edge ridge with Tibet down here and Nepal dropping to your left. Winds come in that can blow you off the face, and you've got 100 people trying for the summit, and some of them don't know what they're doing. You're talking about a catastrophe, and this is a real concern, much more than actually the rubbish left on the sides of the mountain.
Over 5 decades of constant support in the Everest region, are you satisfied by the progress region has made?
I'm blown away by the progress the region has made. I think, Khumbu has just really risen up, and from a very neglected community to, I think, one of the most influential communities in the country. But now it's time, I think, to really look elsewhere, and I think particularly to the western parts of the country. There are some real problems out there, and I've been to some places where things haven't changed at all. It's like life was 200-300 years ago. And it's not about changing everything in their lives, but it is about adding things to improve it and improve the quality.
Himalayan Trust presently supports many organizations in Khumbu region. And how are you going to meet the funding challenges that will only grow?
Well, I think there is the Himalayan Trust, but then there are several other organizations which are very important. The Sir Edmund Hillary Foundation in Canada, the American Himalayan Foundation, the Australian Himalayan Foundation. I was recently up in the Solu district, and the Australian Himalayan Foundation is funding a program called the Teacher Training Program. So this is going through and training all the teachers, because a lot of these people haven't really been to much school themselves. And so this is showing significant improvements. And these different organizations target their respective nationalities, and so they cater for what is appealing to those countries. And I think the most important thing is to evolve. The Himalayan Trust and any other organization, they began in the 60s. The world is a very different place. Nepal is a very different place to the 60s. So it's about evolving and keeping up to date. And one of the other things that I believe is that the funds and support now more than ever can come from within Nepal, not just externally. And to rely on external is dangerous. Look at the global financial crisis. You've got a lot of the most powerful countries in the world ridden with debt, so relying on funds from there is not always sustainable. A lot of growth can happen from within the country, and maybe assistance, whether it be finance, technical, expertise, can come from these different foundations. But I think the best growth will always be one that comes from within the country.
The Everest now has been climbed by disabled, retired and the youngest. When are you going to pursue your dream excursion, Mount Everest?
There's a real personal touch to that mountain for me. This mountain changed the course of my family, and in many ways, because of this mountain, it gave me Nepal, this country where now I'm calling home and living. So I have a lot of respect for it, and I believe in being a good climber before going up. So maybe in about 2-3 years, we'll see. Around then, I would definitely love to climb, but I know my father will only let me. He's summited twice. He knows the mountains very well. He also knows how dangerous they are. So I will not be allowed to climb until I'm a good climber in my own right. So
okay. I wish your dream come true.
Thank you.
And I have to ask one question that I always ask my guests. Why life is beautiful to you?
I think life is beautiful because you never know what is coming around the corner. It is a surprise that every moment. And the more you're open to every part of life, the more surprises and joys you'll get out of it. So.
You know that Nepal is a very young country. We have many youths here. So do you have any message for them?
Being a youth myself, I feel quite strongly about the youth in Nepal really taking action. And that does not mean necessarily fighting or anything along those lines. It means remembering that you are Nepali. Doesn't matter if you're Sherpa, Nawari, Marwari, anything, you are Nepali. And this is your country. And the future of this country is in your hands. And you need to be proud of this country because so many people are. I am so proud to be part of this country and be here and be involved in the diversity and the culture and the history and where this country is going. And this is the time for the youth to stand up, the youth to decide this is what we want. This is when we're, in 20 years' time, when we're having our children and when we're progressing on and we're telling the stories of Nepal, we can stand up tall and say, we affected it, we made change, and we are proud of what we did.
I'm very happy that you gave me a time to share something.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.